So Research in the City is a half-day workshop. It's sponsored by Cities at Manchester and Methods at Manchester. It brings together academics talking about their research and about the kind of methods they've used to generate their findings. It includes people from history, from geography, from social anthropology and from social statistics, all talking about how they generate their findings. And hopefully what will come out of the half-day workshop is that graduate students have a better understanding of some of the challenges but the opportunities on working on cities and the kind of methods that they can use to generate their own findings.
My research is about changing ethnic diversity and what that means for ethnic integration and ethnic equality. And my methodological approach is two-pronged, combining quantitative secondary data analysis with qualitative interviews. And I think this illuminates different aspects of the research problem. So an example might be using secondary data analysis of census data to look at how patterns of residential mobility within Britain vary between ethnic groups. And then using interviews to understand people's decisions about whether or not to move house and where to move, and how ethnicity might impact on those decisions. I think secondary data analysis can be really daunting for researchers who haven't used large data sets, but actually the analysis doesn't have to be complex to get some really interesting results, and there's a great deal of support available for secondary data analysis. So I'm advocating a mixed methods approach, combining qualitative and quantitative work that makes the most of secondary data sources that are available to us already.
Hi, my name is Pedro Ramos-Pinto. I am lecturer in international history here at Manchester, and I'm here today to talk about urban protests considered in history and by historians. I work on urban protests. I work on the urban social movement in Lisbon during the Portuguese transition to democracy in 1974-1976, a very wide, very active urban social movement. And I'm using that to think a little bit about how we can consider protest in urban settings historically. And I want to think about how urban protest has an afterlife, how it reverberates through time, and how it's remade and reconsidered beyond the moment when it took place. But also how protest events rely on historical time behind them in order to how they bring up identities, how they use community, how they use space, all things that are historically constructed. I'm going to talk also a little bit about the difficulties of understanding that and how to reach them through the archive and historical research.
My paper today discusses issues around asylum in the UK and my research to explore the links between asylum and the city. In particular, what I'm focused upon is three central methods that I used in my research. So a set of discursive framings around interviews, documentary analysis, a set of ethnographic engagements with particular spaces of the city, and diary interview work with asylum seekers. I then go on to consider and talk through a few of the challenges that came out of this work, particularly around participant observation, the ties that kind of bind research with vulnerable individuals, and some of the ways in which I dealt with some of those issues.
My project is about a specific area of downtown Rio de Janeiro called Lapa, which has been going through a process of gentrification, a slow ongoing process of gentrification for 3 decades now. It is a very mixed area in terms of the population who lives there, in terms of class, racial diversity, economic, social, etc. So what I want to do in this research is to use the camera, the video camera, to tease out the multiple relationships that connect the diverse groups and situations that share the social space. I am interested in the connections that people establish and that situations establish between themselves. And I think that the camera will allow me to do this in a way that's going to bring out the very sensorial, material aspect of people's daily lives. The talk is about methodology, isn't it? The talk is about how to do research in a city. Actually, the talk is about how to do research on a city, isn't it? And it's something that I haven't done before. It's something that I'm still struggling with, this idea of how is it that you do ethnography, in-depth ethnography, on a city.